Good morning, children. Welcome back to the lesson Silk Road. Dear children, we had already 4 sessions on this. Today we are going to conclude the lesson. I hope all of you have gone through the text properly and are doing well. Okay, so this is all about a travel towards Mount Kailash. All of you know. Silk Road is mentioned here because author is passing through that road, Silk Road, and another mention is it is a difficult journey, Silk Road, with full of mountain pass, means mountain roads, correct? Now he was escorted by another two, that is Daniel and Satan. All the three set forth of the journey towards Mount Kailash to complete the Korah. That is the aim. Okay, and Satan is an expert driver and he knew all the routes, and on the way they had to negotiate many sharp turns and inclement weather conditions like heavy snow and the height of the mountain pass, that is something around 5400 meters, and they reached a place called Hor, and Hor was actually an old trade route from Lhasa to Kashmir, and there the lake Manasarovar, according to many other travelers, it was actually a very holy place. I mean, venerated by Hindus and Buddhists, but narrator had a different story to tell because he could not uh, match as per the narrations done by other tourists. Okay, it is actually dirtied by the visitors. It is full of pollution there. Then they reached a place called Darchen. There author was suffering from breathlessness and he could not sleep that entire night, and next day Satan took him to Darchen's only one medical college, and the medical college did not look like a medical college, and the doctor also did not look like a doctor. He was without his paraphernalia, and he got some Tibetan medicines, and the very next day he felt himself relieved. I think there we stopped, and now let us continue with the text. Yeah, children, all of you take page number 80. Once he saw that I was going to leave, Satan left me to return to Lhasa. Okay, and when the author got relieved from his breathlessness or cold, Satan felt that he is going to live. That means he has survived from that breathlessness. So finally, Satan, the driver, decided to return to Lhasa. He was on his way to Lhasa. As a Buddhist, he told me he knew that it didn't really matter if I passed away, but he thought it would be bad for business. Actually, he was a little frightened that the narrator would die because of that, but now he is relieved, and he said he made the statement. What is the statement? He knew that it didn't really matter if I, means narrator, passed away, died, but he thought it would be bad for his business. Actually, it depends on narrator for the business. Darchen didn't look so terrible after a good night's sleep. It was still dusty, partially derelict, and punctuated by heaps of rubble and refuse. Actually, what way Hor is not, I mean, Darchen is not a good place. One is it is full of dusty and partially derelict. Derelict means almost ruined. You can write down almost ruined. Okay, spoiled, and punctuated by, interrupted by. Okay, write down interrupted by, interrupted, interrupted by heaps of rubble, waste of a building, rubble and refuse, debris, otherwise called as debris, Debris, and here S is silent. Okay, debris, rubble and refuse, otherwise called debris. Okay, but the sun shone brilliantly in a clear blue sky, and the outlook across the plain to the south gave me a vision of the Himalayas, commanded by a huge snow capped mountain, Gurla Mundata, with just a wisp of cloud suspended over its summit. From there, the author could see the uh, wisp means tuft. The top part of a mountain is called tuft. Okay, wisp of cloud suspended hanging over the summit, the top part of the mountain, that is summit. Okay, so from there he could see, from Darchan he could see the top part of the Himalaya. The town had a couple of rudimentary, what is rudimentary? Basic general stores selling Chinese cigarettes, soap, and other basic provisions, as well as the usual strings of prayer flags. In front of one, men gathered in the afternoon for a game of pool. The battered table means very old and torn. Battered means very old and torn. Table looking supremely incongruous, out of place. You can write down what is incongruous, out of place. It is looking in out of place, incongruous in the open air, while nearby women washed their long hair in the icy water of a narrow brook. Brook means small river. Okay, small river that babbled down. What is babbled means? Sound, murmuring sound of that water, babbled down. Okay, write down the murmuring sound, babbled down past my guest house. Darchan felt relaxed and unhurried, but for me it came with a significant drawback: there were no pilgrims. So by the time the author visited the place where Darchan, there were no pilgrims. That was the only drawback that he felt. Actually, the place is not so bad. He could see women, I mean, taking bath in the icy water. Okay, and that is that water, that brook is passing by his guest house. But only thing that he disliked is there were no pilgrims. It had been told that at the height of the pilgrimage season, the town was bustling with visitors, actually crowding with visitors. Many brought their own accommodation. You see the spelling of accommodation. Many children commit mistake with the spelling accommodation. There are two C's and two M's. You can see accommodation. Generally, children miss one M out of this. Okay, enlarging the settlement round the edges as they set up their tents, which slipped down onto the plain. I had timed my arrival for the beginning of the season, but it seemed I was too early. Actually, author felt that he was quite early. Why? Because he could not find any pilgrims that time. Actually, during the pilgrimage season, there would be thousands of lakhs of people, for example, bustling with pilgrims, but he could not find any. So he felt he reached the place little early. One afternoon, I sat pondering means thinking my options over a glass of tea in Darchan's only cafe. There is only one cafe, we already mentioned. After a little consideration, I concluded they were severely limited. Clearly, I hadn't made much progress with my self-help program on positive thinking. Actually, he's a man of positive thinking, and now he feels that he is not progressing with that positive thinking. In my defense, it hadn't been easy with all my sleeping difficulties, but however I looked at it, I could only wait. The pilgrimage trail was well trodden. What is trail means? Path. Trail, you know, path, road, yeah, path, trail, especially mountain pass, was well trodden, well used. Well trodden means well used by pilgrims. But I trod, tread, trodden. Okay. But I didn't fancy doing it alone. The Koro was seasonal because parts of the routes were liable to blockage by snow. I had no idea whether or not the snow had cleared, but I wasn't encouraged by the chunks. Means, write down chunks. What is chunks? Actually, piece. Solid piece, it is called chunk. But here it means thick and heavy. Actually, chunk of bread, for example. Chunk of banana means a thick piece of banana or a slice of banana. Thick, solid piece actually, but here as an adjective it means thick and heavy. A thick and heavy dirty ice that still clung. That is cling, closely attached. Cling, past tense, clung to the banks of Darchen's brook, Darchen's river, lake here. Since Satan had left, I hadn't come across anyone in Darchen with enough English to answer even these most basic questions. Actually, as a pilgrim, author has got many doubts now that he is alone. Why? Because Satan left to Lhasa and now narrator is alone. He is now facing his loneliness and now he wanted somebody who could speak English. That is his urgent need now. Until that is, I met Norbo. Okay, Norbo is a place, a person here. You can write down. He is actually working in Beijing. This Norbo is working in Beijing at the Chinese Academy of Social Science. Okay. Until that I met Norbo, the cafe was small, dark and cavernous. Okay, the only cafe in Darchen was dark. There is no proper lighting. Okay, it is dark and coveredness. Coveredness means something very large and often empty. For example, a big hall, a coveredness hall we can say. Very large and often empty. Write down. Coveredness means very large and often empty. With a long metal stove that ran down the middle, there is only a small metal stove in that cafe. The walls and ceilings were wreathed. What is wreathed? Surrounded or covered. Wreathed in sheets of multicolored. Actually, that cafe is covered multicolored plastic of the striped variety. Plastic and again striped means of different colors. Striped variety. Broad blue, for example, broad blue, red and white, that is made into stout, voluminous, very large shopping bags sold all over China. So one could see the shopping bags also hanging there on the wall for sale. And in many other countries of Asia as well as Europe, that bags could be found. As such, plastic must rate as one of China's most successful exports along the Silk Road today. So author is now recalling the business made through Silk Road. What is that? Plastic. Plastic is exported through this Silk Road even today. The cafe had a single window beside which I had taken up position so that I could see the pages of my notebook. I had also brought a novel with me to help pass the time. Actually, it is already said that that small cafe having no proper lighting, so narrator has adjusted himself to a particular position so that he could read his notebook, and he also had brought a novel with him. Nobo saw my book when he came in and asked with a gesture if he could sit opposite me at my rickety table. You English? He inquired. After he had ordered tea, I told him I was, and we struck up a conversation. Actually, by that time, Nobo, that fellow, one who is working in that Chinese Academy of Social Science, came there and he just took permission whether he could be seated opposite the rickety table. What is rickety? Rickety means actually very old, something very old. Not well made. You can write down not strong or not well made. rickety table means wobbly, shaking. Okay, not well made. Okay, write down that way, or it can easily be broken. You English? Then Nobu asked. On seeing that man is reading a book or novel, he understood that the man, I mean our narrator, is English. You English? He asked. Then he said yes. He replied in the affirmative, and they started striking up, I mean, a conversation. To strike up a conversation means to start conversing. I didn't think he was from those parts because he was wearing wind cheater and metal rimmed spectacles of a western style. Actually, Nobu is a Tibetan only, but with his dress code, I mean, wearing a wind cheater, I mean, sweater, and metal rimmed spectacle means, spectacle. He looked like a western. He was Tibetan, he told me, but worked in Beijing at the Chinese Academy of Social Science. That you underline. Where was he working? Chinese Academy of Social Science, in the Institute of Ethnic Literature. I guessed he was on some sort of field work, actually, like field trip. Visiting a place is called field trip. Okay, so like that he was there for some field work. You and yes and no, he said yes, at the same time he said no. He said, I have come to do the Kora. Actually, for the time being, he was there as a pilgrim. Okay, what is his intention? To complete Kora, like our narrator's intention. What is narrator's intention there? To complete the Kora. That is the purpose. Okay, my heart jumped. Why? Because he was alone, he was without a company. When he heard that Nobu was there for the same purpose, that means to complete the Kora, narrator felt himself very happy and his heart jumped. Nobu had been writing academic papers about the Kailash Kora and its importance in various works of Buddhist literature for many years, he told me, but he had never actually done it himself. Being a professor there, he was writing about that Kailash Kora in his book or in his work, in his various work, but at the same time he didn't make a Kora. See the contrast. People are writing about Kora but has not done the Kora. When the time came up for me to tell him what brought me to Darchen, his eyes lit up. We could be a team, he said excitedly. When narrator said his purpose, that is to make Kora again. So both of them became friends, and both of their eyes lit up, means they felt themselves happy and excited now. Two academics who have escaped from the library. Perhaps my positive thinking strategy was working after all. And finally, both are related to academics. I mean, our narrator as well as that Nobu, both are academicians. Okay, that's why the positive thinking worked out. My initial relief at meeting Nobu, who was also staying in the guest house, was tempered by, okay, write down children, what is here tempered means made less severe, by the realization that he was almost as ill equipped as I was for the pilgrimage, and both are not very much prepared for the trip. I mean, both are ill equipped. He kept telling me how fat he was and how hard it was going to be. Actually, Nobu physically was very strong, means very bulgy, very fat. He could not walk properly, he could not climb mountain properly. Very high up, he kept reminding me. Actually, the place that they are going to reach is very high. He kept reminding, so tiresome to walk. Okay, he wasn't really a practicing Buddhist. It transpired. Okay, write down what is the meaning of transpired here. It happened, but he had enthusiasm and he was, of course, Tibetan. Actually, Nobu physically was very fat. He could not climb the hill very easily, and he says that it is a tiresome experience to walk through the mountain pass, but he has got the enthusiasm. Okay, although I had originally envisaged, what is envisaged? See in your mind, okay, something that you visualized making the trek. What a trek? A long hard walk, especially in the mountain. Okay, that is called trekking. You know, many NCC children know what is trekking. Trekking here stands for the walk through, I mean, long hard walk in the mountain. So making the truck, not the truck that truck, that is different, that is a vehicle. Here it is a truck in the company of devout believers. What is devout? One who believes strongly in a particular religion. Devout, believing strongly in a particular religion. Write down, devout, believing strongly in a particular religion. So devout believers, on reflection, I decided that perhaps Nobu would turn out to be the ideal companion, best companion for him. Okay, because both are devotees. He suggested, who suggested? Nobu suggested we hire some yak. You know yak, Tibetan ox, a large hairy animal like an ox, for example. So Tibetan ox is called yak. So they decided to hire some yak to carry our luggage, which I interpreted as a good sign, and he had no intention of prostrating himself all round the mountain. Actually, it would be a tiresome walk towards the mountain, and finally they decided to hire yak, so that yak, this animal, would carry the luggage, and it was a good proposal according to our narrator again. And finally he says, I mean Nobu says, that he could not do the prostrating. What is prostrating? Lying flat on the floor, touching all the limbs. Okay, that is a kind of surrendering yourself to God. You may have seen people going to temple and prostrating themselves. What is prostrating? Lying down, fully touching all the organs and submitting yourself to the earth. Prostrating. What you call in Kannada, I don't know. Prostrating himself all round the mountain, not possible. He cried, he said, collapsing across the table in hysterical laughter. Actually, both were sharing the table in that Darchen only cafe. There, through the conversation, we have come to know all this detail, and still they were there, okay, sharing the table. And he said in a hysterical, a mad laughter, what he said: it is not possible to make prostration everywhere. It was in his style, and anyway, his tummy was too long. Actually, he cannot make that prostrate. I told you, when you prostrate, when you lie down, all the limbs should touch the floor. But for him, for Nobu, he has got a big tummy, and it would be difficult for him to do that. So dear children, that is the end of the lesson, and you can just imagine that both of them reached the mountain top and finally made their Kora. Okay, that is what the lesson is. Here we stop, and before we conclude for the day, let us make an immediate review of what we discussed today. Today we started with Satan's departure. Satan left to Lhasa, leaving the narrator alone, and but at the same time, narrator was little relieved after taking the Tibetan tablets. Okay, then finally he could find here a person who could speak English. Who is that person? Nobu. Nobu actually is working there, where uh, in the Chinese Academy of Social Science. I mean, he is also an academician, and he has come over there to make a Kora, just like that of our narrator, and both of them felt very happy to have good company, but at the same time, both were ill equipped to make the pilgrimage. Okay, having no idea. But this man has written much about Kailash Kora in his work, I mean various works, but he himself did not make a visit. But finally, Nobu declared or said that he could not make prostration, I mean that lying down or going around the mountain, that is actually really Kora, because of his big tummy. Okay, So that is the end of the lesson, dear children. Read well, study well, write down all the question and their answers in your notebook. With this, we conclude for the day. Thank you very much for listening to my class. Thank you. Bye.